Hello everyone, welcome back for lesson number 6 of the course Basics of Deep Learning. So today we look at unsupervised learning with two deep learning architectures which are autoencoders and generative adversarial networks. So far we saw all the main building blocks that will allow you to construct a deep learning pipeline. So from the basic PyTorch tensors with automatic differentiation, how to choose your loss on your optimizer in order to do classification. What are convolutional neural networks with convolutional layer and max pooling layer. Last time we saw embedding layers with an example related to collaborative filtering and how to use dataset and data loaders in PyTorch. So each time in the previous lessons we had access to a dataset which was labeled. So for example, in the classification you had a dataset of images with the corresponding labels. For each image, you know whether it was a cat or a dog. In the collaborative filtering setting, we also had labels, which were the ratings given by the user on a given movie. So today, we'll see another kind of task which deals with a dataset where you have no label. So this is what is called unsupervised learning. And namely, we'll see two deep learning architecture which are used in this setting, namely autoencoder and generative adversarial networks. So for you, it will also be a good chance to do a small recap about everything we saw so far in the practicals of this lesson. So this lesson is made of two relatively independent parts. The first one will be on autoencoders, with a short video presenting the basic theory of autoencoders and then a small practicals where you will see one application of autoencoders to denoising. The second part will deal mainly with generative adversarial networks. So again, you will have a small video showing the basics and the theory of GANs, and then you will have practicals where you will implement a simplified version of what is called InfoGAN to do a simple clustering task on a toy dataset. So let's start with autoencoders. So autoencoders are used to learn a compressed representation of the data in an unsupervised manner. So again, now we will make the assumption that we have only access to a dataset with no labels on it. So for the purpose of this lesson, we will take the NIST dataset, so the dataset of digits between 0 and 9, but we will never use the labels. We will only use the 28 by 28 images of each digit, and our task will be to learn a good representation of these images. So it's not completely clear what a good representation means, but let's try to see how we can proceed for such a task. So autoencoders can be seen as a very simple example of what is called self-supervised learning. So in a self-supervised learning framework, the technique is basically to use the data itself to provide the supervision. So in our setting, this will mean that the autoencoder will map a space to itself and will be close actually to the identity on the data. So here is how it works. You start from the dataset, and again, you do not have access to labels now. The first thing you will do is you will build an encoder, which is denoted by the function f here, that will take an image from your dataset and produce what is called a code. So the code will be the representation of your image, and you want this code to be meaningful with respect to the original image. So how to achieve this? Well, thanks to the decoder part. So the decoder here is a mapping G, and it will take as input now the code and produce an image of the same size as the original image. But the decoder has no access to the original image, only access to the code. So a good way to get meaningful code here in the latent space is to do some kind of compression. If you start from a big image here, the encoder's task will be to compress all the relevant features of your image in a relatively small code. And then the task of the decoder will be to produce the best possible image based on this compressed version of the original image. So you can see autoencoder as a kind of compression algorithm, but the main task is it's not really compression. It's more how to get a good representation of the original image in a short code. So asking for a compressed version of the original image is a good way to get a good representation of the original data. So here you see also that the code is living in what is called the latent space. So if you remember the last lesson on collaborative filtering, we also use latent space and latent factors to get an embedding of the users on the movie. And this is exactly the same meaning here. You are building an embedding of your original image into a simpler feature space, if you want, that you can interpret, that you hope you will be able to interpret here. And then the decoder is mapping back from this latent space or feature space to the original image space. So here is a very simple piece of code to do the simplest autoencoder you can think of. So I'm building a class, which is a subclass of the module framework in PyTorch. In the init, I'm defining both the encoder and the decoder. So the encoder is simply a fully connected neural layer taking a vector of dimension input dim, which is the size of your image, for example, and producing a new vector of size encoding dimension. Now the decoder is doing exactly the opposite. So it's taking a small, so typically encoding dimension will be much smaller than input dimension. So now the decoder will take a small vector of this dimension and produce a vector of the size which is the same as the input given to the network. Now the forward is very simple. You pass your image, flatten image if through the encoder, pass it through a nonlinearity, so here ReLU activation, and then the decoded version is just passing this encoded version through the decoder. And you obtain a decoded vector which has exactly the same size as the original X. Now, in order to learn the parameter of both the encoder and the decoder, you need to define a loss between the original X here and the decoded version over there. So you can take, the most standard loss you can take is just the mean square error between your original vector and the vector produced by your decoder. So if you do this on a bit more complex autoencoder than this one that you will actually build in the practicals, you obtain something like that. So the first line here, the first row corresponds to the original digit of NIST. So this is the vector that you will pass through your autoencoder. The second row over there is just a representation of the encoded version of your original image. So this is the code of your digit in the latent space. And then the last row here is what is obtained by your decoder based on your code over there. So this is what you obtain after training of your autoencoder, and you see that you get a pretty good match between the input and the output. So there are some digits which are harder to reproduce than others, for example this 9 over there or this 5 over there, but most of the time you are able to do a pretty good job at compressing your original digit into a code which allows you to recover the original digit over there. So if you think in terms of compression, what you are doing here is you are learning a compression algorithm which is lossy, meaning that when you are decompressing your code over there, you will make errors, so you will not recover exactly the original image, as seen, for example, for this 9 digit. But of course, what you want is to minimize the number of errors. So autoencoders are not used for compression. They are mostly used in order to get a good latent representation of your dataset. For example, if you want to represent them in a 2D space, it's often a good idea to start with an autoencoder to reduce the dimension and then use basic algorithm to do 2D visualization like t-SNE or other algorithm. But one way to understand a little bit and to get an intuition about how the code are generated by your algorithm is to do the following experiment. You take two samples. So in my case, I will take a sample corresponding to the digit 2 and a sample corresponding to the digit 9. And I want to interpolate between these two samples. So the naive way would be to interpolate between these two samples in a linear way. So just by passing from the digit 2 to the digit 9 with a linear interpolation. So instead of that, what I will do is I will first go in my latent space thanks to the encoder function f, and then do the linear interpolation inside my latent space. So the segment going from the code representing my digit 2 and the code representing my digit 9 in the latent space is given by this equation, where alpha varies from 0 to 1. So you start from the when alpha is 0, you start from the code of the digit 2, and when alpha is 1, you end up at the code representing the digit 9. Okay? But as you have seen, it's very hard to get an intuition of what these codes are meaning. So in order to see what kind of information is contained in this code, I want to go back in the original space of my picture 28 by 28 in the case of NIST. So for this, I will simply apply my decoder on this particular code, which is not corresponding to any particular digit. So I'm creating, if you want, a fake digit in between the 2 and the 9. And this is obtained by this equation. And again, alpha is varying between 0 and 1. So here is what you are obtaining when you are doing an interpolation between the digit 2, which is on the left here, and the digit 9, which is on the right here. And you see that going through a straight line in the latent space between the code of the 2 and the code of the 9 is actually a smooth operation, which would not be the case if you did linear interpolation in the original space. So you will do this in the practicals, and you can compare what you would obtain if you did a naive interpolation directly in the original space of images. So here you see that the shape of the 2 and the shape of the 9 are very different, and you are basically, what the autoencoder is doing is removing this part of the 2, for example, which is going up and up and up, and then it's merged like this, and the top edge of the 2 is also merged like this to obtain finally a 9 over there. So it's a smooth transformation of the 2 to the 9. So if you want to go deeper into this direction, there are actually a better architecture where you learn better representation of your original data, which are called variational autoencoders. But we will not cover this in this course on the basics of deep learning. So that's it for the theory about autoencoder. So now let's see a little bit of code. On these practicals, so the first thing I'm doing is importing all the required module that will be necessary for my practical. I'm using a GPU, so I'm checking that. I'm downloading the MNIST dataset. So again, I'm using the MNIST dataset, but I will never use the label corresponding to the digit. So these are functions to plot result. So here is the code that we saw in the lesson with the encoder, the decoder. We pass, to get the code, we pass the original image through an encoder, put a ReLU nonlinearity activation function, and then the decoded is obtained this way. So, okay, you see that I'm taking an input dimension which is 784, so I do not have the choice for this. So why is that? It's because I want to deal with images from NIST, which are 28 by 28 with only one channel because there is no color. So 28 by 28 is exactly 784. So the first thing I will need to do is flatten my image, pass it through the network, and then this encoding dimension is something I did choose, and you can play with it if you want. So you see that I'm compressing quite a bit my original image because this is the dimension of the raw vector given to my network, and this is the dimension of the code. Then I'm taking the model, I'm instantiating my autoencoder. Optimizer, I'm using Adam. So if you want to know what is the learning rate, you have to have a look at the documentation over there. So the learning rate is by default here. So 0.001. And I'm using MSE loss. So MSE loss means that I will just compare my original image and the final image and take the sum of the square of the difference of the value at each pixel. So here I'm training my model. So here is my training loop. So again, this should be very easy for you now. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm flattening my data. So here you see that when I'm using my train loader, I'm not looking at all at the labels. So the labels is hidden over there, so I will never use it. Now the standard optimizer 0 grad, computing the output, computing the loss backward optimizer step, and then the print. Okay, so it looks like the loss is kind of decreasing. And here is what I'm obtaining with this very simple network. So you see that the picture is not as good as the one I showed you in the lesson. So you have the original vectors, the digits, over there in the test set, and you have the reconstructed one, which are indeed a very noisy version of this one. So here you see that your autoencoder is not doing a great job compared to what we saw in the lecture. So your first task will be to take a more complex architecture of autoencoder in order to retrieve results which were given in the lecture. Namely, you should at the end obtain a picture which is like this. So in order to do that, there are two main things. The first thing is, instead of simply taking a linear layer here, you will replace the encoder and the decoder by a multi-layer perceptron. So here I'm giving you some possible choices for the different dimension. So you see that you will get a code which is of size 32, for example, which is even smaller than the code over there. Then there is no modification here. You can still use the training loop that is defined here and plot the reconstruction. Then a second way to get a better result is to replace the mean square error loss by the binary cross entropy with logits loss. So it might be a little bit weird, but I will leave you thinking a little bit about what you are exactly doing when you are using this BC with logits loss. And I mean, if you never heard about cross entropy, you should probably have a look at its definition here and see that indeed this is a kind of distance between distribution. Then you can do the interpolation very easily between the 2 and the 9. So this is left as an exercise. And the last part is one possible application other than data representation of autoencoder, which is related to denoising. So your task here will be to modify slightly your code in order to build a denoiser. So what is a denoiser? It's an algorithm taking as input this noisy version of the original dataset and producing this output. Okay? So how do you obtain this noisy version? I'm just erasing 80% of the pixel of the original image. So you see a very light 2, 7, 1, 0, and so on. And now the task of your autoencoder is to take this noisy data as input and to produce the best possible picture of the original digit. So if you want, you modify a little bit the autoencoder because now the input is this noisy version and the label you need to produce is the top row. Okay? So here is an example that you should be able to obtain where you see that the reconstruction is pretty good compared to the original image over there, and it's done only based on 20% of the original pixel over there. So that's it for autoencoder, and we will move in the second video to generate to GANs architecture, which is another technique to deal with unsupervised tasks.